Hello and welcome to Real Talk with Phillip Carter. This is the day that the Lord has made, and I am determined again to rejoice and be glad in it. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. I'm here with my co-host Alex Brown. How you doing, sir?
I'm well, sir. How you doing?
I'm glad to be alive. We have a great show today.
All right, talk about it.
We have the incomparable Jackie Gills-Webb with us.
Come on in here.
This is such a privilege and a treat to have her, and she's going to talk about her life and career.
All right.
We have Pastor Henry Davis from the First Baptist Church of Highland Park.
The legend.
The legend, huh? And we have, and she really is a legend, Minister Robin Walker Shanks, who is a legendary quartet singer and a minister of music. It's going to be a great hour, and we want y'all to stay with us. We're getting ready to go to our first song. It's by yours truly. It's called It's Now My Time. Enjoy.
For me to give up, you keep on looking at the time. You want me under, so you can trample upon the very ground that I like. I know you're thinking I'll never make it so far. I've reached a goal every time. Won't let you see me crumble, and every rock you threw at me built a mountain for me to climb. 'Cause I said no, I won't let you see me stumble. 'Cause what God has meant a blessing, His promises are mine. It's now my time. Saying how I will never be one to take my place with the stars. Yeah, it must be lonely to travel this mission alone. Didn't think I'd make it this far. Yeah, but now just facing how much wrong that you are. The standards, I raise the bars. 'Cause I said no, I won't let you see me crumble. And every rock you threw at me built a mountain for me to climb. 'Cause I
Welcome back to Real Talk. You just heard It's Now My Time by yours truly, written by one of my former students, Miss Anna Gibson. She's a phenomenal writer, and I just want to give her a shout out in this broadcast. I am here with Miss, I want to call her evangelist, but Miss Jackie Gales Webb. She's a Peabody award-winning producer. She has her own collection displayed at the Indiana University Archives of African American Music and Culture. And you are in the WERS. I'm not sure if that's WERS or is that WERS?
It's WERS, Emerson College's radio station, Boston, Massachusetts.
And that's your alma mater.
That's my alma mater.
Okay. Let me first thank you for being on this episode, this broadcast with us.
Thank you for having me.
Taking the time out to be with us. This is awesome. This is a privilege. This is one of the reasons why we started this show, was to hopefully get local legends. You are a national legend, but legends like you, and talk about your story and the things that many of us may not be privy to in terms of our knowledge of who you are. So can we start off with, how did you get started in broadcasting?
Growing up in Long Island, New York, I had heroes on the radio. Mm-hmm. There was WWRL, which was the soul radio station. There was a radio station in Long Island, WLIB. Mm-hmm. There was WBLS in New York with Frankie Crocker, who I idolized and I kind of emulate with my music now, because he took the opportunity in New York to not only play R&B, but he played gospel, he played jazz, he played pop. You could tune into Frankie Crocker and you could hear Edwin Hawkins combined with Frank Sinatra combined with Herbie Hancock.
Okay.
And then some disco.
Right. Wow.
It was a unique flow that he had, and I kind of emulate that in what I do. I try and play traditional, contemporary, inspirational, just the whole gamut, praise and worship into one flowing inspirational theme that hopefully and prayerfully will help people.
Right.
So growing up with all these heroes, I wanted to learn how to do this, and so I went to college at Emerson College in Boston, had a radio program on their radio station, and when I was a junior at Emerson College, I actually started working in commercial radio in Boston, WILD. I did a gospel program, the early morning gospel program. I also, in Boston, worked for a legendary radio station, WBCN, which was album-oriented rock. A long time ago, there was a television show called WKRP in Cincinnati.
Right.
It was based off of WBCN.
Okay.
I was like the Venus flytrap at the time, the black person that played the music at night. Loved it. But I, 2 years after graduating from Emerson, I heard about this wonderful new concept that was starting in Washington, D.C. And the concept was created by a lady named Kathy Liggins.
Okay.
And at the time, there was all this gangster rap pervading the radio, and it was very negative. She wanted something that would give positive messages. Wake up, everybody, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. There's a message in our music, OJ. So she was hired by a group of African American business people here in Washington, D.C. to start WYCB. And I was one of the first people on the air with now Bishop Vashti McKenzie and Luke Hankins and all these great people. So I came to Washington, D.C. to help start WYCB. Stayed there 6 years. I went from midnights to nights to midday, program director, music director, and then program director, WYCB.
Wow. And you were there with some of the other greats. I remember growing up, Don Edwards Miller.
Don Edwards Miller. I was an engineer for the Petey Green Show.
Oh my goodness, Petey Green.
Right, Dr. Calvin Rollard.
Yeah.
If it is to be, it's up to me.
And then the Madam Lucille Banks.
Madam Lucille Banks.
She was something else. I remember.
Miller was one of the finest businesswomen you would ever want to meet.
Wow.
She started the Love Club.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
You became a member of the Love Club, and they were Love Club businesses. So the Love Club members would make sure that they went and patronized the Love Club businesses. Okay. She was so smart.
Wow.
So smart.
Wow.
I admired her an awful lot.
Wow. A lot of our people don't know that you also do TV. You also do TV and have done TV. So how'd you get involved in that?
Well, when I went to Emerson College, I actually went to emulate another hero of mine. His name was Rod Serling.
Okay.
He produced The Twilight Zone.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah.
He not only starred in it, but he also wrote it and produced it, and he got a Peabody Award. So when I did my research on where I was going to college, I researched him and found out he had gotten an award, honorary degree from Emerson. That's what led me there.
Wow. Okay.
So I actually went to Emerson College to study television as well as radio.
Wow.
So after 6 years at WICB, small AM station, I still hadn't really utilized my talents in television that I had been studying all those years. So I went to Channel 9 Television, where I worked with Carol Randolph in Morning Break as one of their producers. I was a producer for Maureen Bunyan. I was a producer for J.C. Hayward.
Wow. What a legend. Legends.
Wonderful time.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, 1988 is when I got married. And, a couple of years after that, children were starting to come.
Right.
And I said, well, I really don't want to be chasing ambulances with, doing the type of work I was doing at Channel 9, even though it was great. I got 6 local Emmy Awards while I was there. Yeah. Loved every second of it. But when you become a parent,
It's different.
You have a different focus.
Gotta balance.
So I went to work for the Smithsonian. And that's where I started producing documentaries, which led to the Peabody Award. I did a radio documentary on the history of black radio, and my host was Lou Rawls. I did a documentary on remembering slavery, where we took the narratives, recordings that were made in the 1940s. The WPA went down south and recorded interviews with former slaves. Because at the time, no one was really talking about slavery. Young people weren't really taught about slavery for many reasons. One being the parents wanted to get away from it. They kind of wanted to forget about it. It was so painful. Now we're in this whole renaissance of we need to know about this.
Right.
But at that time, we didn't. So we kind of put it in people's faces so they could hear the horrors of slavery. And it was a national documentary. It had Lou Gossett Jr., Esther Rolls, and so many, Debbie Allen, so many definitely talented African-American artists reading the narratives of the interviews that weren't recorded. They recorded some, and some they just wrote down, transcribed. So these actors came in, James Earl Jones, and read these wonderful transcripts, and it was a great documentary.
And you produced that documentary?
Yeah.
Where can we see that documentary now?
It's radio. It's radio.
It's all radio.
It's all radio.
Where
It's
can
with
we
the
hear
Smithsonian.
it? Oh, they have it.
They have it. And during this period, during the Smithsonian, no, I'm sorry, I skipped something.
Go ahead.
While I was still at Channel 9 Television, WHUR, Howard University's radio station,
Here we go.
Patrick Ellis had several successful years as the Sunday morning gospel.
Right.
It was so successful that they wanted to extend it. So it was either Ellis Terry or Bobby Bennett, I think it was Ellis Terry at the time, remembered me from WYCB and came to me and asked me if I wanted to do an extension of the gospel that would go into the afternoon. And I, who would say no? Right? So that's when that started. And I've been at WHUR since 1990.
Isn't that something?
Right.
I vaguely remember, when that afternoon program started, but I grew up with Patrick Ellis and hearing Change and all those. He would play the same thing. He would he had a small rotation. He would play, and he knew we loved it every week.
It became a tradition.
Yeah, and you came along and just extended that, and your career at WHUR is just phenomenal. That's where a lot of us know you, is from WHUR.
And what's good about the way things are, pray for me, that I do have the opportunity to curate my own music.
Right.
Meaning that I can play a Phillip Carter.
Right.
That I can play Patrick Lundy and the Ministers of Music. I can play local artists. and add them to my playlist. And I make sure I do that because, as you know, nowadays there are the conglomerates,
Sure.
radio stations where there might be one person in one city who will program for several different other cities, and you really don't get to hear that local.
Right.
And I just remember, Richard Smallwood coming into WICB with his first record and how important that was to get that exposure.
Right. Well, we thank you for it. Can you recall a most interesting interview you had with an artist that you thought was just, I guess, unique in a way? Is there anybody that came in the studio
Yes.
that was really unique to you?
Yes, several. This one always stands out. Kirk Franklin came in and took it over. He came in with his crew. I forgot who was singing with him then, the Family or the New Nation, whatever it was. But it was him, about 5 people. They came in, and he just took over. He started them singing while I was playing the song, so I was going in and out of them singing and the song.
Wow.
He was conducting, and he was just, I just appreciate him so much. And I know the struggle that he went through when he first came out, and people saying, that's not gospel. But I remember going to see him for the first time. I forgot what venue it was, whether it was Constitution Hall or the Warner Theater, whatever. And at the end, all these young people, young people, came up and were crying and giving their life to Christ.
Absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
I remember him first coming to Riverdale Baptist Church in Maryland. That's where he came. He came with his whole crew. Came from the back. It was a great, exciting time. When he came out in 1990, he was a part of that whole crew. Hezekiah Walker was just getting popular. John P. Key, and Kirk Franklin just took the world by storm. 2 things: advice for people, for young people who are just coming out of school in communications, who are trying to find their niche or trying to find their way in communications. What advice would you give to them right now?
Don't worry too much about what the platform is. Worry about what your content is. Become proficient in something. Have a story to tell. This is a storytelling time. If you have a story to tell or something to offer as far as your unique personality, your experiences, your writing, concentrate on that, because you could be on the internet, you could be on the radio, you could be on television. Just don't worry about the platform. Just really focus in on that content, what it is that you are offering to the public and how it will benefit them. You could do a podcast. There's podcasting now, and that's the latest thing, but there might be something else very soon, like tomorrow.
It can happen just like that.
Right.
What about to us indie artists, especially those of us who are local, who are still navigating our way? And of course, there are a lot of young up and coming, I call them millennials, which is that 1990 to 99 generation. What advice do you have for them right now in trying to navigate their way through this ever-changing gospel music industry?
Pay attention to the platforms. Pay attention to the new technologies. There are many young artists now who are not really seeking labels. They are studying, they're getting their music on like Spotify or some of those platforms, because with those platforms you can actually track who is streaming your music and where. So some artists, they use Spotify to say, a lot of people are streaming my music in Philadelphia. I need to go there for a concert, labels are still good. RCA Inspiration and E1 and Ty Scott and all the other great labels do wonderful things for their artists. But until you get there, take advantage of the new technology.
What does the future hold for you? Is anything you haven't done yet? Bucket list things?
Yes. I have a Peabody Award, I have Emmy Awards, I won a Tony and an Oscar.
Come on now.
All right, okay.
Why stop here?
Why?
No, it's interesting that you asked that, because I am in this prayerful state right now. I have many talents. I can do many things. I want to be in God's will. Everything I do, I want it to be a benefit to God's people.
Absolutely.
I've been on HUR for 28 years now. I work with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, bringing great programming to the public to actually help people. And so that's what I want to do. I don't know exactly what it is. There's something else that God wants me to do. So pray for me as I try. And my guess is and my method is just do the best I can and try and do it with excellence.
Amen.
And God will direct me in the path that will stay in His will for my life.
Right.
So that's what I'm praying for.
Last, you have an upcoming show in Philadelphia or something you were talking about before this show aired.
I don't have an air date yet,
Okay.
but WXPN in Philadelphia had me to host a program that will launch this national documentary they're doing on public radio called Gospel Roots of Rock and Roll.
Okay.
And it's an excellent documentary. And it explores how gospel music has been the platform for many rock and roll songs.
Always, yes.
And so what they had me do was to compare and show how certain rock and roll artists have taken from Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and also certain gospel artists who have taken from rock and roll or R&B, such as, Kirk Franklin's Stomp is directly from One Nation Under a Groove.
Right. That's right.
Parliament, Funkadelic. So it should be interesting, but I don't have a date yet. But hopefully and prayerfully you will hear great things coming from Jackie Gales Webb. And one last thing before we go that I want to make clear, that my work at WHUR has been a blessing to me.
Absolutely.
And it is a blessing because it allows me to be a vessel for God. I will never forget, a while ago, a lady came up to me and she was just crying because she was so grateful for hearing this song that I played. It helped her through a particular time in her life. And I know that wasn't me, it was God. And so I was grateful that God allowed me to be a vessel and a help to this woman
Praise
at
God.
that time. So I consider what I do on HUR ministry.
Right. I don't want this show to be over without you talking about your daughters.
My daughters?
Your daughters. That's
My
right.
lovely daughters?
Yes.
Joanna Webb is an artist. She's about 25 now, and she's a tremendously talented anime and comic book artist.
Wow.
Diana Webb, my Fulbright scholar. She speaks fluent Spanish.
Come on now.
And I see great things ahead for her.
Right.
And I want to thank each and every one of you that come up to me and say, "Oh, I remember your husband, and I remember when your daughters were born." That means an awful lot. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I do want to mention that you are a proud member of the Metropolitan Baptist Church. You talk about that all the time.
Well, they want to see me more.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, any pastor will come to his member and say, "I haven't seen you in a while."
You got work to do.
Now, I understand you have a fabulous pastor coming up on your program.
Oh
pretty
yeah,
soon.
he's coming.
Henry Davis.
He's coming soon. He's coming soon. But
Yeah. But I have to shout out to Pastor Maurice Watson.
That's right.
And my pastor emeritus, Dr. H. Beecher Hicks,
who is doing well.
Who
was doing well.
Yes.
In fact, I think it was the day he got out the hospital, he went and did a funeral at Alpha Street. But it was amazing.
Wow, we have some tremendous churches in our
tremendous
area,
churches and tremendous legacy of pastors.
And also, I always have to mention in my history, Pastor Jerome Bell, who has been my friend and colleague all these years through YCB and the many things that he has done. He is very talented young man.
He is. He's getting ready to record this fall too. He's doing his own recording in October. Yeah. I'm going to help him out, whatever he needs.
Good.
But thank you so much for being on this show. This was a real pleasure.
Yes, it was.
This was on my bucket list, so I can check mark this. Interviewed a legendary Jackie Gales Webb.
Thank you.
God bless you. We're getting ready to go to a commercial for a jazz concert on June the 11th, and we're going to talk about the IGAA. Up next, Pastor Henry P. Davis III. Enjoy.
My name is Marshall Williams. I'm from Wilmington, Delaware, and I just attended the IGAA conference out here in Beltsville, Maryland, and I had a wonderful time, learned a lot of valuable information, and I'm just glad to be here, and I plan on being here next year also. July, I think, if I'm correct,
12th through the 14th.
12th through the 14th, I shall be there, and God bless y'all, and thank you.
My name is Summer Pearson. I live in the DMV area, and this was my first year at the IGAA conference, and I can tell you that I loved it. Every minute of it was valuable. I'm leaving here today with connections that I never would have made otherwise, with other artists who I can support now and who can support me. We kind of have a family going on. And we also have a network, when we want to go out and do gigs, I can call these people in different cities. Also, the information that was shared with us from people in the industry who know what they're talking about was invaluable. They really gave us the real on what's going on, which is really valuable as an independent artist, because we're doing so much on our own and we're just trying to find our way a lot of times. So to have people guiding us and giving us solid advice was invaluable for me. I think every independent artist should be here each year. So that's me.
Tell us your name and how did you enjoy the 7th annual IGAA conference?
My name is Isaiah Radcliffe. I'm all the way from Birmingham, Alabama. I drove 11, 12, 13 hours to get here. We had bad weather, so it took me a little longer to get here, though. But boy, every moment, every session, every speaker was absolutely wonderful. Every group that sang were beautiful. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I feel so informed after being here on this weekend. So thanks to Phil, thanks to his wife, and to the whole staff of IGAA. God bless you.
All right, we're back. We just had a phenomenal interview with Jackie Gibbs Webb, but I am in here with my main man, the Right Reverend Henry P. Davis III.
I'm glad to be with them too.
Pastor of the First Baptist Church of Highland Park, Sheriff Road in Landover, Maryland, and he is a monumental figure in this area. And we thank you so much for being on the show.
Delighted.
It's a blessing to have you. You've not only been a blessing to me, but to my entire family.
His parents, great parents, his brother. You got to give me a report on your brother. And so
He's running for county council.
Oh yeah,
District 8.
Yeah,
Oh
so
Lord,
I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear.
He's doing well.
In the thick of it.
He's doing well.
All right.
Well, let's talk about you. How did you get started in ministry? How did you get started preaching?
Well, it's a long story. I'm a product of a preacher's home, and my dad just retired from his church after pastoring it for the last 40 years.
Wow.
And so he's getting ready to celebrate his 89th birthday.
Okay.
And I was just with him last weekend. As we graduated from seminary together.
Young man.
30 years ago. And so he's already talking. He says, well, he says, next year I'll be 90. I said, well, you're just going to skip 89. And we're just going to go to 90. And so he says he wants to be around here till he's 100 plus. So,
okay.
But anyway, let's back up. I was born in Texas. Okay. Grew up in a very religious, kind of spiritual home. Again, my dad being a preacher. I probably started preaching and acknowledged the call to preach in my early 20s. I was probably on my way to law school, so it was interesting. Our daughter just graduated from Columbia Law 2 weeks ago.
Right.
But I was on my sort of trek.
You willed.
I willed it in. And so that ends up being feeding into my life story. And I ended up going to college at Oral Roberts University. Most recently, you see the movie out about Carlton Pearson. Carlton was ahead of me. But I was there at Oral Roberts same time as another figure that I'm sure you all are aware of, Miles Monroe. Miles Monroe, I was in school with him.
Okay.
And but again, I wasn't not necessarily thinking ministry at that particular point in my life. But I guess all of these kind of treks are going on. I end up graduating from Norfolk State University. End up working on a master's degree in public administration. And in the middle of that, I felt like I heard God's voice. Well, I don't felt I know I heard God's voice. Right. And so I was really ready to scrap the whole public administration piece and then just focus on ministry. End up going to New Brunswick Theological Seminary. I graduated in 1988. Several months after that, started pastoring my first church. And so I started pastoring in 1988. And so really now I'm sitting with my 30th year of pastoring.
Wow.
I spent 5 years at my first church in Lakehurst, New Jersey, another 7 years in Harlem, New York, and then for the last 18 years, I've been at the First Baptist Church of Highland Park.
And you have done a great job. You just built a new edifice?
Just built a new edifice. The Lord has blessed us. $20 million project. Woo. Praise the Lord. But we still have a mortgage every month.
Right.
And so we're still dealing with that. And but the church is growing. And again, that's our first phase for us because we have more that we have targeted to do. We have a senior housing project that we're probably some 18 months away from moving forward. It's a $30 million project.
Right.
And then we want to build a gymnasium. And all of that right on our plot of land, which we started calling a campus some years ago. And of course, it has really evolved into what we say now is the city on the hill. And so our school, we graduate students next week. We have about 12 eighth graders who will move on to some of our premier high schools in the area. And we have about 220 students in Highland Park Christian Academy. I put a plug in for that. We have programming this summer in the academy. And so it's a very vibrant atmosphere. Much is going on. 7 days a week in terms of ministry. 80 active ministries in our church. 3 worship services every weekend.
Phenomenal.
2 on Wednesday. 12 o'clock, if you persons are available, in the noon hour, we fill up our West Sanctuary, which is our former sanctuary. We fill that up on Wednesdays, 1 hour of worship, which we call the Power Hour.
That's right.
And then we come back that evening. And so we engage in very active ministry 7 days a week.
So listen, there are a lot of musicians and singers who watch our broadcast, and as I told you off the air, you are a friend. You are considered a friend to musicians and singers amongst the DMV area. What's your philosophy in terms of dealing with having a relationship with your music ministry? How do you cultivate that? How has that been? How come your relationship with your musicians and singers has been so successful?
Well, I would say, and that's a great question, Phil, because I probably have not ever evaluated it from that perspective. But I give you some background. I was a choir member myself.
Okay.
I was, I love singing in the choir. I enjoy singing in the choir. And just so happens that in that same experience, I have siblings younger than me. One of them is a musician.
I gotcha.
And he's a musician. He's a minister of music of a church in Dallas, Texas. First Friendship Baptist Church of the Colony. And so I understand musicians. I understand the talk. Because in essence, I feel like you've got to have that kind of dialogue between the pulpit and the musician, because it's all going to work together. And so even today, we have ongoing dialogue. We can have rigorous discussions and talk about directions musically, all of those kinds of things. Because again, a part of our church, it's very broad. You got so many different tastes, from the traditional to the contemporary.
Right.
And then you try to say, well, how in this whole, we got to try to reach seniors and millennials. And we got seniors and millennials all worshiping in one space. So the communication to me is very, very important.
Absolutely.
And I love good music.
Right.
I mean, I think people enjoy energized music, spirited music in terms of worship. And so, I mean, I love those connections. I think that iron sharpens iron. I think that, you've been to our church and you've been a blessing to our church. And I feel the same way with other musicians across this country in terms of bringing them in.
Right.
Byron Cage just left us a week or so ago. Gay Arbuckle will join us this summer.
Yeah.
She directed All Women last year during All Women season.
Yeah.
She'll return back. And so I don't ever want us to believe that we have the corner on anything. And so I think that's where communication becomes very, very important.
Right. You've been taking your church through a fitness program here for some years now. How did you develop that, and why did you see that as being so important?
Well, when you look at the African American community, you look at health, and health is a critical issue. But I credit our women. Our women started out several years ago, and they started having prayer walks, and those prayer walks, faith walks, ended up turning into faith runs. I'm an active person. I've always been an active person, but it started to spread. And so now at our church, we've got line dancing, we've got martial arts, we have bike clubs. We've got several in our church who've done 100-mile bike rides, 50-mile bike rides. We have a running community. This weekend, we'll do the Baltimore 10-miler, and we've got a whole group who will do that. We just finished with the Rock and Roll Marathon in D.C. We had several to do the 26.2, the full marathon. We had another about 15 to do 13.1. Out of that 13.1, 12 of them was their first time. And I pause it, because I told them, I said, if you track your steps every day and you're not trying to exercise, you're going to realize that you have already covered 6 or 7 miles. So if you add another 6 or 7 miles, and you don't have to run, you can walk it the whole time. And so we had some persons who took us up on it. We had our minister to evangelism, Dr. Catherine Borges Johnson, did her first 13.1. We had others to do it. And then we had a whole slew to do 5K.
Wow.
Which is 3 miles. I said basically, most of us do 3 miles every day. We just don't realize we do it.
Right.
And so it is evolved in terms of trying to keep persons fit, and then we try to change diet.
Okay.
Because if you're gonna start exercise, you also got to start talking diet.
That's absolutely
and
right.
then what do we serve at our church? I mean, I bury persons, and then they talk about they had the biggest barbecues and hey, and then we're looking at them in the casket at 60, 50s.
That's right.
Massive heart attack. And I'm not saying that just because you become fit, you do not have to deal with these kinds of issues, but I think that we can at least bring that down.
Sure. Right.
We used to have moments in our church where we would serve pig feet and chitlins. I said, oh no, we're not doing that. Not anymore. I'm not telling you can't do it. Just like some of y'all are still slipping to the liquor store.
Right.
But you're not gonna do it on these grounds.
Right.
Certain things that we're gonna make a conscious decision that we're gonna move away from, and then I think that kind of thing helps us. Now I'm not the best, but I think I at least try to make sure that I'm trying to lead persons in the right direction in terms of that kind of focus.
That's awesome. Let's switch to preaching. You are a phenomenal preacher. A lot of people know that already. But what is your preparation like each week? Because you preach a lot. You really do preach a lot.
Stay in the Word. Stay in the Word. I mean, even this week I'm preaching, which is really a crazy thing. I'm preaching my own revival.
Okay.
And,
I know people do that before.
Yeah. But I'll do 3 nights this week. But basically, I would answer that question to say that I'm always gathering nuggets through my meditation life, my devotional life, and just trying to grasp things that eventually I might come back to and develop sermons. And so I feel like I'm almost always in the process of developing that next message, whatever that message is. Even before I've come on the air with you today, I've already started working on a sermon I'm preaching tomorrow, and really the whole series of messages I'll preach this week. Normally, by Wednesday, I feel like God has given me the inspiration of the weekend, and so I'll start, at least in a sketch form, start developing what's going to be the focus of preaching that weekend. Like some of my colleagues, they'll do 3 months ahead and 6 months. I'm not there.
Right.
I probably look into more of a fresher, because when I look at it, we're looking at events, whether it's shootings, the violence in our streets, whether it's the political directions of the country, or whether they're world events. And so I want to make sure that we're really scratching where the itch is.
And you give yourself time to turn around.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. And I'm always, I'll say, I want to be led by the Spirit.
Right.
I want the Spirit of God. I don't want to just be so caught up in my agenda that I'm not open to what God's agenda, which is the most critical thing that we've got to do in terms of the gospel.
Have you ever had to change a sermon last minute?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it happens.
Like in worship?
It's happened. Absolutely. I mean, you sometimes you come to the pulpit and you feel like this is, then the Lord said, not today. We're going in a different direction. And you've got to be open to do that. Now everything in our church is all media sensitive. So I got to say, media team, what I gave you, we didn't change. We just made a change. And so we've got to do that. And so sometimes it happens. And I'm telling you, another thing that's happened, sometimes I've had a bad internet connection. And so a bad internet connection, because I got so much on my phone.
Right.
So I said, I was planning to use a New Living Translation, but I realized I couldn't get New Living Translation with the Message Bible. I can pull it up. So we just had a change because of technology. But I realized, I think Romans 8:28, all things work together.
That's right. Yeah.
And as long as souls are being saved, lives are being transformed, praise the Lord.
We got 2 minutes left. Who are some of your preaching mentors?
I've got
heroes.
I've got a lot. Many of them in the grave now, unfortunately. But the late Dr. Caesar Clark out of Dallas. I mean, I used to love here. the late Dr. Fred Sampson out of Detroit. I'd love to hear him. The late Manuel Scott.
Yeah.
Many of them. Harold Carter.
Yeah. Out of Baltimore.
When it just goes on and on. Jeremiah Wright.
Yeah.
I studied under Jeremiah Wright, and so that influence is evident in terms of my preaching. And so, William Augustus Jones. I could go on and on to all of these. Oh my goodness, all these persons who have made real impact and impressions, and I had the blessing of knowing Y.T. Walker, pastored right around the corner, and so I've been able to connect with him. And you might not know this. I'm an original board member with Al Sharpton's National Action Network.
Is that right? No, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm an original board member.
Favorite sports team?
Oh man, I'm cheering for LeBron. I mean, after I saw what LeBron did last night with the Celtics, I mean, you gotta go with LeBron.
He might be out of gas.
But he might be out of gas. But I'm not gonna knock KD. We are in KD territory. Kevin Durant has been a blessing. His mother's been a blessing to Prince George's County, and so you really gotta appreciate that kind of connection as well, that a person would be able to rise high but reach back. And so I have enormous respect for that. And so I enjoy sports. So I mean, if my team gets knocked out, I always can get another team. I mean, we can be fine with that. And I really appreciate Philadelphia, because Philadelphia, when they won the Super Bowl, first thing they did, lift Jesus.
That's right. Shout out to your family real quick, your wife and children.
Hello, everybody. Hello to my wife, to our children, Lily Bell, Henry, and again, God bless you. Love all of y'all. Love the support that you give us, and it is what it is.
Thank you so much.
All to God.
Appreciate you.
All right, man. Bless.
We got to have you back. There's so much more to talk about with you. We're going to go to a commercial, and we'll be back with Sister Robin Walker Shanks.
Come on, let's give him all the praise. Oh, magnify the Lord with me and let us exalt his name together. Come on, lift your hands if you love being in the presence of the Lord. Come on, in his presence there's fullness of joy, and at his right hands there are pleasures forevermore. When you're in the presence of the Lord, you can feel his spirit, his unconditioning love, reaching from the heavens. I feel him from on high. Glory, hallelujah. Still I hear your cry. I'm in his presence. I'm in his presence. I'm in his presence. Be still and know that I am God.
with my very, very special guest, Reverend Minister Reverend Robin Walker. I just saw you preaching on Facebook. Yeah, I saw that. I said, I didn't know you were preaching.
Yes.
I'm not surprised because you do so many other things.
To God be the glory.
We've been preaching through music for a long time, so we just got to get some learning without burning.
That's right.
This is Robin Walker Shanks, everybody, the minister of music of the Harvest Assembly Baptist Church. And Former minister of music, former minister of the Harvest Assembly Baptist Church under the pastorate of Bishop Abrams. And you are also the leader of the Singing Angels.
Singing Angels.
That's right. That's a quartet.
Lady quartet.
I love it. And you're also a registered nurse, right?
Yes, working in the nursing field.
Right.
40-some years.
And you work in the dementia wing, right?
Yes, I manage a dementia unit for Vincent Hall Retirement Corporation.
Okay.
And it's the Sylvester.
Yes. Right. So how did you get started in music?
Singing? Oh, my goodness. I was made to sing. I didn't want to sing. In our house, the rule was you went to Sunday school, you could go to the skating rink. And you're too young for that. You don't know nothing about the skating rink on St. Asaph Street.
I know about crystal skates.
Yeah. No. This was in Alexandria, Old Town.
Right.
And if you was cool, you had your own skates. You could throw them across your shoulder. So the deal was, if you went to Sunday school, you could go to skating rink. Well, we had a family group. Somebody didn't show up, and they were like, you got to sing. I gotta sing. No, I skate on Sunday. I held up my part of the deal, but nevertheless started going to sing, and then just fell in love with it.
Wow!
And that's how the story started. My mom, her sister, my uncle, they put together this group in the early '60s, and the Singing Angels have been in existence like 58 years. 58 years.
Wow.
Yes.
So when did you come on board?
I came on board, I was 13 years old. I came on board in the 75. Yeah.
You've been since 1975?
Did my first time in the studio with Ed Gerald as our producer in 1979.
I thought you were born in 1975. I had no idea.
Yes.
Look, I'm sitting here trying to calculate it in my head. I said 10,
you doing
20, 30.
Yes. 1979, we did our first album. Ed Gerald was the producer.
Is that right?
And I can't even remember the name, but we had some goofy pose on the front. But yes, I was 17 years old.
You were 17 years old?
17 years old. Sounded like a young Michael Jackson.
Wow.
Had that high pitch.
Wow.
But yeah, it was an awesome experience.
Right.
Awesome.
So you're actually a native of Alexandria, Virginia.
Alexandria, Virginia. Remember the Titans, home of the Titans. That's me.
I was going to say a little something different, but I don't want to insult the good folks of Alexandria, especially since I teach in Alexandria. I got to be careful, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
Your ministry has been a blessing to many, and so we're getting ready to honor you.
Yes.
You're one of our honorees at the Musicians and Singers Banquet on June the 25th.
When I got that call, I was so taken aback. I was like, you want to honor me? Oh,
absolutely.
Okay, I'll take it.
For 40 years, I think it's worth it, right?
You think it's worth it?
And see, a lot of people in our area don't know people like you, these legendary people who have served in this area for a long, long time.
Yes.
Who are some of your musical heroes?
Oh, my goodness. And a lot of them are quartet.
That's fine.
A lot of them are quartet. I love Doc McKenzie.
And the highlights.
Ooh, I love Bishop Darrell McFadden. Back in the day, I love Jerome Williams from the Everetties. Love Maddie Johnson and the Stars of Faith. The Queens of Faith, Gospel Pearls. These are the people, that I looked up to, because week after week, my mom and dad dragged me to the programs at the WSD. Sit there, and that's what you saw.
There you go.
But just grew up on that music, and it's such a part of me, I have branched out, done some things, went to Paris, sang with a jazz ensemble, did some plays and stuff. Was just really, really happy.
You ain't scared.
I ain't scared. I branched out a little bit, but I'm always come back to that base, to that place. So it is what it is.
I was going to ask you who are some of your heroes, but you just named them.
Yes. And
my hero is will be Harvey Watkins, because when that first album that we knew about, it went national.
Yes.
With Hello Mother, and I was like, this has changed the world right here.
This changed the game. That changed the game right there for quartet. It really, really did. It kind of put us on the maps, like gave us some clout, so to speak.
Right.
And he's just gone up from there, really, really.
That's right. And I remember you turned me on to the Cantons with like the first experience. Like, what is this? I was like, whoa. Let me play that again.
Let me play that back. They became the template. Their music, their style.
Yeah, it changed the game for a minute. Before them, it was My Clouds of Joy. They had the sound.
Yes.
That sound. Yes.
So look, you've been in ministry a long time. There are a lot of young people in this area who are, they're pressing their way, doing many things in music ministry. What is your advice, especially to young quartet singers?
Stay rooted in that word. Stay focused on your ministry. Get away from the competition. Get away from trying to outdo, but minister to God's people.
Amen.
Just minister to God's people. If it's only one somebody that you ain't got to get the house, you ain't got to flip the house, you ain't got to turn. But if you come from your heart, because what comes from the heart touches the heart. So if you sing to the glory of God and his people are blessed, you've done your job. You've done your job.
Well, I'm encouraged.
Amen. I try to keep that as my, because oftentimes you can get distracted and, folk get in your ear and this and that. It's not about any of that.
That's right.
We are vessels used to bring God glory and to edify and build up his people, that they are blessed. And that it's all about that.
That's right.
Yep.
As a writer, what is your process?
Oh my goodness, it's been so long since I wrote. Now, when I was back in that Ed Gerald time, I was writing out some stuff, but and really hadn't been through a lot. But just in my life, in that time in my life, I had lost my sister at a very young age. I was only 13 and she was 19, so a lot of it would draw from that pain. I would write little things, and I mean, we had an album. You couldn't tell us we ain't have it going on. I wish you could hear it. But a lot of it was drawn from life experience. A lot of it was drawn from what I'd heard. A lot of it, to be honest, was drawn from Chaka Khan. Listening to her and kind of flipping it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Well, look, we thank you for being here.
This was a pleasure.
I'd like to have you back because on a whole other, because my mother has dementia, and since you're working at Dementia Wing, I'm going to have an episode. We're going to talk about dementia and Alzheimer's and what to do at these stages and the different stages and all that. So I want to commend and applaud you.
And I
being in
applaud
that
you.
work. I applaud my dad.
Yeah,
because we do have help, and but he is still her primary caretaker.
That's a blessing.
At 80 years old, and we're trying to keep him together.
Yes,
and
that's
he's keeping her together.
Wise. That's very
absolutely.
Absolutely.
We got to bring you back for that. But congratulations, we look forward to seeing you on June 25th.
I'm gonna be there with bells on.
My
folks.
Absolutely.
Yes,
y'all come out and buy your tickets on www.buygospel.com. Where we're going to be honoring 10 great men and women, musicians and singers. Get your tickets, they're only $10. Food is included. Bring your family, bring mom and them, bring everybody. It's going to be a wonderful time in the Lord. And also, for those of y'all independent artists who are interested in learning the business of music and how to navigate your music with your ministry, the IGAA conference is coming up soon in July, the 12th through the 14th. At the Queen's Chapel, United Methodist Church. You can go to www.gospelalliance.com. Register now because you do not want to miss out on this wonderful experience of learning. Got to get your learning with your burning.
With your burning.
That's
absolutely.
right. That's right. Listen, y'all, this is another great installment of Real Talk with Phillip Carter. We'd like to thank our guests, Jackie Gills-Webb and Reverend Henry P. Davis and Sister Reverend Robin Walker-Shanks. And we're going to have an exciting show next week, but we pray that you all have a great rest of the day and have a great week. God bless you, and goodbye.
For more information on how to become a guest on Real Talk with Phillip Carter, or for general inquiries, please email us at realtalkwithphillipcarter@yahoo.com. Tune in next Monday for another edition of Real Talk with Phillip Carter.